All right. Yeah, so thanks for coming out. So we have all our speakers up on the stage. So if you guys have any questions for any of us, either questions about the talks, questions about the Google Seattle office. So just to give you guys some perspective on what happens at Google, we all work on the third floor of this building, making the Cloud Console UI, right? So actually, you probably don't.
That's not the.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. You can look at all my.
Do you have you can look at your projects? Yeah. So this whole thing is one giant Angular JS app, as you heard about before, and is slowly becoming an Angular app. So we're in the middle of like probably the biggest migration of an Angular JS app to TypeScript Angular 2+. So we're getting a lot of like learnings from that, and we want to be sharing that with the community. So all that said, like, do you have any questions for us? Yeah.
You talked about the new upgrade method. Is that still coming, or?
It's out. It's been out for a while in various like states of documentation, but we've been using it, and it's been solid. Like I haven't had any problem. Upgrade Lite.
Did Mishko present it at the Mix?
I don't know.
I watched that on YouTube.
Oh, so there's Is he called? What's it called now? Is it independent mode or
ngUpgrade Lite?
It's ngUpgrade Lite. Okay, yeah. So there's a new way to do upgrade. It's called ngUpgrade Lite. It came out of our experiences trying to do upgrade, where basically we just couldn't. The old version of upgrade would intertwine change detection cycles so that you would get the heavy ng1 change detection cycle running as often as the fast ng2 change detection cycle. So just like all the time, and it just crippled us. So ngUpgrade Lite separates the two. So it's kind of as if you have a separate Angular 2 app and an Angular 1 app at the same time, living side by side. And the only sort of trade-off for that is that they can't really cross-communicate that much. Or they can, but only through like very specific points. So as long as you're not like mixing Angular 1 and Angular 2 components, but you have a page that's either completely ng1 or a page that's completely ng2, it works really well. So.
Or you can mix them up, but then you have to change. Then you have to call Angular JS as digest or apply manually, right. And you have to call Angular's detect changes manually.
Yeah, yeah. So but as long as you keep those points to minimum, you have control over when you cross that bridge. So apparently Mishko talked about it at Angular Mix, which I did not know. So. Anything else? Yes, sir.
Well, we recommend with an Angular JS dev, and not working on that app anymore. What would you recommend for someone to really dive into for changing mindsets from Angular JS to 2, 4, 7?
Sounds like a Jen question because you kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I think.
So the question was about how do you like change mindsets if you've got an existing Angular JS app and you want to like evangelize to your team and say, hey guys, life would be better if we got on Angular.
I think for me, the biggest shift that I've seen is learning about observables. It just really changes the way you do pretty much everything. And I think that from what I've seen, that's been the biggest major adjustment.
And you think it makes your code better to be able to use observables and
yeah. I mean, you can do some really interesting things. You can kind of clean up some of those promise chains, but it is very different. And that's actually part of the reason that we have backed away from using ngUpgrade a little bit. So originally we had this dream that like, okay, we're just going to rewrite the UI first, and we're just going to consume all of our existing services through ngUpgrade. And we didn't necessarily run into technical problems with that, especially once we have ngUpgrade Lite. You can do it, but we found that the code that we would consider best practice in Angular now is very different from the code that we would get as a result of using ngUpgrade.
And I'd also say like this is less of an issue for us, but we've internally migrated to TypeScript. I think just about everyone's on TypeScript, and you don't have to get Angular 2 to use TypeScript. It works better with TypeScript, I think. Like if you're just doing an external Angular JS app, it's actually kind of hard to just upgrade to TypeScript. And I found that very, like, incredibly productive.
Yeah.
In terms of like catching problems early.
Yeah, I would say that TypeScript has just been crazy popular. Like nobody in our community is arguing about whether it's worth upgrading to TypeScript. It's just become obvious that like, oh yes, of course this is much better.
For me, there are a couple of things in Angular that stood out and I needed to look into. One was that it's a lot more of an ahead of time compilation kind of thing. A lot more is done at the build step, which is both good and bad. But it's making use of TypeScript decorators. It's making use of server-side ahead of time compilation of templates. A lot of that boilerplate isn't happening, in the browser, the client. The other thing was the automatic change detection. That's accomplished by using Zone.js that I talked about. But it's also it's a little bit of magic, but you have to be aware of that magic in order to write high-performance applications. And at the same time, sort of the Angular team recognizes that there might be some difficulties in using that. So I think they're exploring ways to run Angular 5 or 6 without Zone.js, and instead use something like NGRX to do state management.
Yes, the latest news just remove completely Zone.js.
Yeah.
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 Are you guys using Angular Universal or not?
We are. We're using the bleeding edge of it. So every new commit to Angular gets pulled into Google periodically, and so we're always running ahead. Like we're not running Angular 4, Angular 5. Like we're Angular whatever yesterday's commit was, and a lot of the development for Universal is happening because of us. So we are like all of Google, I think, is by default. Well, is ahead of time compilate.
By Universal, do you mean server-side rendering part of it?
Yeah, not.
We're not using
I don't
that.
think
You're
we're
not
using
using that. Okay, yeah, that's true.
So Google has a
Is
lot
anyone
of.
using that?
I don't think it's set up to interact with Google's build right now.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it wouldn't be.
So we have a bunch of internal build infrastructure that is really complicated and was actually one of our biggest challenges with moving to Angular. Like we have, things that support like code hiding and experiments, and so we need to get all that hooked up.
Yeah. Sorry, I misunderstood. No, we're totally doing ahead of time compilation. And yeah, we cannot do universal actually. Now that I think about it, that's Vikram's, it's on his list. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that will be the case.
it's actually the reason we can't do universal is partially like build stuff, but it's also because like Node is a second class citizen. So a lot of the TypeScript support is very much browser first. And so the thing that's blocking universal in Google 3 is like TypeScript modules, basically. Yeah. Yes.
For building, are you guys using the CLI, Bazel, or Webpack? Or...
We use the original Bazel. So we use Blaze, which is the anagram that Bazel came from. So Bazel is, they carved out as much of Blaze as they could and then open sourced it. So it is, and now is developed internally separately and then pushed out, I think. Yeah. So Bazel is what Google builds software with. Bazel with some patches.
Are they planning on migrating CLI to Bazel or?
Alex just had a blog post on this.
Alex had a blog post on it.
Recently.
I think the idea is to keep the CLI, but to like just have Bazel out there working well for larger scale applications. It'll benefit you. It'll be an option. Do you guys know like?
We've talked quite a bit about doing something with CLI and like our internal build system, and we've got a bunch of stuff on top of Bazel. I'm not really sure where that's at. I haven't checked in a month or two.
Oh yeah.
So it's definitely in the long-term plans.
Yeah.
We have a hack together Python tool right now.
Yeah, we kind of have a CLI equivalent.
Yeah.
Like Bazel doesn't get you all the stuff CLI does. It doesn't get you like generators and the Yeoman kind of functionality.
Yeah, we have a really simple code generator, but it's helping.
Yeah. Yes. Any questions about like Google or like Google CL development or?
You guys build a new office
In South Lake Union, we should be there 2019.
Yes.
are they merging any offices or just a new office?
Do you guys know?
I'll still be in Kirkland. Or
So the original plan, I think, was that this whole office was moving there, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't think that's gonna be practical now.
yeah. I think
Too many
we're
people.
gonna need the space. We are hiring, by the way. So if you'd like to contribute to that problem,
Yeah.
could it be here? You could be in Salt Lake Union. You could be in Kirkland.
Yeah.
Anything
Could
can
be in
happen.
Kirkland. Yeah.
Would you guys be our plug if we were to apply?
If you do a talk and it's really good, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So more motivation to do a talk.
So that's how you do it.
Yeah.
Also, if you do talks and you have more practice, not like me, there's a call for white papers for ngConf, and I think the deadline is in January. So this could be a great place to practice and like get your platform and say like, this is what I want to present, and this is what get comfortable presenting, not like how I did in one day.
Yeah, I don't feel like I hit that enough, but like our goal is to bring up new presenters to like come, take what they've learned, share it with the community. And if you haven't done a presentation, if you're a little intimidated by it, like we'll be happy to come in and give you lots of bad advice and do practice and whatever.
Yeah, and we did the first two meetups we did practice. I probably should have had a practice last night with a beer. I think that's what was missing. But yeah, we do have practices, and we go over the slides, and one of the organizers or all the organizer will be there, and we'll try to make sure that what you're presenting is right, and kind of get all that ironed out.
So there is, I just updated the meetup page, but there is now a form where you can submit talks. So if you have an idea for a talk that you want to do, go ahead and submit it there, and we'll get back to you.
Did we finish the beer?
No, there's like half the last keg left.
Oh, crap.
Yeah. Yep.
So just curiosity, what is Angular 2 class inspired by Spring framework, like those concepts, like IOC, like Russian control, like annotation, because they're becoming really like similar. That's just curious.
Do you guys know? I think it was, but I think it's like, it's not a direct inspiration, but more of just a convergence. Like IOC is just a really good way to do things. Dependency injection is just really nice, especially for testing. And if you look at AngularJS, it had a lot of those concepts, especially like dependency injection, which was like hard to do in JavaScript. And I think that desire to have that same kind of experience influenced both Angular and TypeScript to evolve to the world that we have now. And I think it looks the way it does because people probably use Spring and they liked it and they wanted something similar.
I actually came to AngularJS originally from Spring.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and
Wow.
it felt very comfortable.
I don't know what Mishka's background is, but I bet,
I don't know.
yeah. It's a good question.
Where can we buy your book?
By now, Meep Early Access.
Oh, it's almost done, right?
We're supposed to
It's
get
almost
signed
done.
copies here.
Next
If
one.
you buy it, we'll sign it.
Yeah,
It might be worthless when we sign it.
yeah, it kills the
It
resale
kills
value.
the resale. Yeah.
Also, you only have half the authors, so
Yeah, it's not even worth anything. Oh no, it's worth half.
it's worth half. Yeah. Testing Angular applications, Manning.com.
Yeah.
What's that code?
It was like Palmer 30.
Palmer 39.
39 Palmer.
39 Palmer.
39
Whatever.
Palmer.
It's on
30
the slide somewhere.
39 Palmer. It's on the
Like-
slides.
Yeah. It's on the left.
Actually,
It's the second slide.
what I'm wondering is,
Yeah, it's number 3.
Third.
Oh, yeah.
Fourth slide.
yeah. 39 Palmer. But the thing I want to hit up was, did you ever get the link to the slides, the Google Doc and everything?
I just moved my slides there.
Okay, good.
And that link actually goes to the code for the book in the experiment branch.
Yep, and Michael Liebman's thing is up to, that's AngularJS-Tracer.
I uploaded the doc in your folder.
Okay,
Should be
so
there.
if you have the folder link, you've got everything. And enjoy.
Send us a message.
Yes, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
We'll do that.
All right, cool.
All right, so next one's November 14th. BlackRock, thank you.